Imagine the vast Sahara Desert. Think of endless dunes of golden sand, shaped by the wind. It's a landscape that seems empty, a place where survival itself is a daily struggle. Now picture something else entirely. Imagine, hidden within that sea of sand, a collection of delicate handwritten pages. These pages are covered in elegant Arabic script, adorned with intricate geometric designs and illuminated with gold leaf. They are not just beautiful objects, they are vessels of knowledge, holding centuries of wisdom, science, and art. This is not a fantasy, this is the reality of the Timbuktu Manuscripts, a lost library from a forgotten golden age. These incredible documents represent one of the greatest cultural treasures of Africa, and indeed, of the entire world. For centuries they were hidden away, kept safe in private homes and secret libraries, their existence little more than a rumor to the outside world. The story of these manuscripts is a detective story, a tale of survival, and a powerful testament to the enduring human quest for knowledge. It forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about history. It reveals a world of intellectual vibrancy and scholarly achievement in a place many had dismissed as having no written past at all. The contrast between the harsh desert environment and the intellectual richness of these texts is simply breathtaking. What if I told you that in the heart of West Africa centuries ago, scholars were mapping the stars, debating legal philosophy, and writing poetry that could rival any in the world? What if a city, whose name has become a synonym for remoteness, was once a bustling metropolis of learning, a beacon of light in the medieval world? The manuscripts of Timbuktu offer proof of this and so much more. They are a direct link to a past that was nearly erased, a past filled with thinkers, artists, and scientists whose work is only now coming to light. Their voices, silenced for so long, are finally beginning to speak to us across the centuries. The very existence of these texts is a miracle. They have survived the ravages of time, the threat of colonial conquest, and the fury of modern conflict. They endured because generations of ordinary people understood their immense value. Families passed them down from parent to child, treating them as their most precious heirlooms. Librarians and custodians risked their lives to smuggle them to safety, hiding them in caves, burying them in the desert, and spiriting them away from those who sought to destroy them. This is the story of their courage, a story of a people who refused to let their history die. It is a story that belongs not just to Africa, but to all of humanity. For far too long, a damaging myth has dominated the world's understanding of Africa. It is the myth of a continent without a history, without a written tradition. This idea was a convenient tool for colonial powers. If a people have no recorded history, it is easier to justify conquering them, to claim you are bringing them civilization. The German philosopher Hegel famously claimed that Africa was no historical part of the world. This falsehood was repeated so often that it became accepted as fact, taught in schools and embedded in Western culture. It created a blind spot in our collective memory, erasing the vast and complex civilizations that flourished across the continent for millennia. The Timbuktu manuscripts shatter this myth completely. They are tangible, undeniable proof of a sophisticated and long-standing literary tradition in West Africa. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of documents, some dating back as far as the 13th century. This is not a small, isolated collection. It is a vast body of knowledge, a library larger than many in Europe at the time. These texts show us that African history was not just passed down through oral traditions, as important as those are. It was also written down, debated, and preserved in ink, on paper for future generations to study and build upon. This changes everything. The power of these manuscripts lies in their ability to let historical Africans speak for themselves, in their own words. We no longer have to rely solely on the accounts of European travelers or colonial administrators, whose views were often biased and incomplete. Instead, we can read the thoughts of African astronomers as they charted the movement of planets. We can study the legal opinions of African judges as they wrestled with complex ethical dilemmas. We can be moved by the verses of African poets who wrote about love, loss, and faith. This is history from the inside out, a perspective that has been missing for far too long. This revelation is about more than just correcting the historical record. It is about restoring dignity. It is about acknowledging the intellectual contributions of a continent that has been systematically undervalued. The manuscripts prove that the quest for knowledge is a universal human endeavor, not the exclusive property of any one culture or region. They show us a world where ideas flowed freely across the Sahara, connecting West Africa to the intellectual currents of North Africa, the Middle East, and beyond. Timbuktu was not on the periphery of the world. For a time, it was one of its most important centers, and these texts are the evidence. So, how did a city on the edge of the Sahara Desert become a world-renowned center of learning? The answer lies in its strategic location. Timbuktu was perfectly positioned at the crossroads of major trans-Saharan trade routes. It was the meeting point where camel caravans carrying salt from the mines in the north met canoes carrying gold and other goods from the south along the Niger River. This made Timbuktu incredibly wealthy, but it was not just goods that were exchanged here. It was also ideas. The city became a melting pot of different cultures, attracting merchants, travelers, and scholars from across Africa and the Arab world. This economic prosperity, driven by the gold and salt trade, laid the foundation for an intellectual boom. The rulers of the great West African empires, particularly the Mali and Songhai empires, were patrons of learning. Emperors like Mansa Musa, whose legendary pilgrimage to Mecca in the 14th century put Timbuktu on the map, invested heavily in education and scholarship. They funded the construction of magnificent mosques and universities. They attracted the brightest minds from cities like Cairo, Fez, and Baghdad, offering them generous salaries and a vibrant community in which to work. Timbuktu became a city where books were the most valuable commodity of all. The city was home to several major institutions of higher learning, including the famous universities of Sankore, Jinguereber, and Sidi Yahya. The Sankore University, in particular, was structured much like European universities, but with its own unique African character. It was not a single centralized campus but a collection of independent schools, each run by a master scholar. Students would study a wide range of subjects, and upon completing their studies they would receive a traditional turban, symbolizing their graduation and their entry into the community of the learned. The intellectual life of the city was dynamic and decentralized, fostering a culture of debate and inquiry. At its height in the 15th and 16th centuries, Timbuktu was a city that revered knowledge. It was said that the trade in books was more profitable than any other business. The city's libraries were legendary, with some private collections containing thousands of volumes. Scholars from across the Islamic world dreamed of coming to Timbuktu to study with its famous masters and gain access to its rare texts. It was a true Alexandria of the sands, a beacon of intellectual light whose reputation for scholarship was known throughout Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. It was a golden age, and the manuscripts are the surviving relics of that brilliant era. When people first hear about ancient African manuscripts written in Arabic, they often assume the texts are purely religious. And while it is true that many of the Timbuktu manuscripts deal with Islamic theology, law, and spirituality, that is only a small part of the story. To think of them as only religious texts would be a profound misunderstanding of their scope. In reality, these documents cover nearly every field of human knowledge imaginable. They are a complete library, reflecting the diverse intellectual pursuits of a sophisticated and curious society. The scholars of Timbuktu were not just theologians, they were scientists, mathematicians, doctors, and artists. Dive into these collections, and you will find brilliant works of astronomy. There are texts that accurately describe the orbits of planets, chart the constellations, and predict solar and lunar eclipses. These scholars were not just repeating ancient knowledge. They were making their own observations and contributing to the field. You will find detailed medical treatises that discuss everything from ophthalmology and surgery to the ethical conduct of a physician. These texts include descriptions of medicinal plants and their uses, showing a deep understanding of pharmacology and human anatomy. They reveal a world where science and medicine were flourishing. The manuscripts also contain a wealth of knowledge about governance, law, and ethics. There are extensive legal commentaries on everything from commercial contracts and property rights to conflict resolution and human rights. These documents, known as record the legal opinions of Timbuktuan jurists on real-world problems, giving us a detailed picture of how society was organized and the ethical principles that guided it. Alongside these are works of philosophy, logic, and history. The famous and are sweeping chronicles of the empires of West Africa, written by local historians, providing an invaluable African perspective on the region's past. And then there is the art. The collection is rich with poetry, literature, and beautiful works of calligraphy. Scholars wrote poems about love, nature, and their devotion to God. They perfected the art of calligraphy, turning each page into a visual masterpiece. There are even texts on music theory and how to construct musical instruments. What the manuscripts show us is a holistic view of knowledge, where science, art, and spirituality were not seen as separate domains. They were all part of a single, interconnected quest to understand the universe and humanity's place within it. This library in the desert truly contained the world. The intellectual flourishing of Timbuktu was not just about books, it was about people. The city fostered a vibrant and dynamic community of scholars who created a culture of learning that was truly remarkable. This was a place where knowledge was not locked away in ivory towers, but was actively discussed, debated, and shared in mosques, marketplaces, and private homes. The pursuit of wisdom was a communal activity, a central part of the city's identity. Scholars were the celebrities of their day, respected and supported by rulers and common citizens alike. A lively intellectual ecosystem allowed ideas to be challenged, refined, and passed from one generation to the next. At the heart of this community were the great universities, especially the University of Sankore. Unlike the centralized universities of Europe, Sankore was a more fluid and decentralized institution. It was composed of dozens of individual schools, each led by a single master scholar or imam. Students would travel from all over the Islamic world to study with a specific master renowned for his expertise in a particular field, be it law, astronomy, or rhetoric. The curriculum was rigorous and comprehensive. After years of study, a student who had mastered the material would be publicly examined and, if successful, granted permission to teach and issue his own legal opinions. The process of creating books was also a cornerstone of this scholarly community. Timbuktu was a major center for the book trade. Scribes, calligraphers, and bookbinders were essential artisans in the city. Wealthy patrons and scholars would commission copies of important texts, and the city's scriptoriums were constantly busy producing new volumes. A scholar's personal library was a symbol of his status and learning, and some private collections numbered in the thousands. This book culture ensured that knowledge was not only preserved but also disseminated widely, creating a shared intellectual foundation for the entire region and beyond. This academic environment fostered a tradition of critical thinking and open debate. The manuscripts are filled with commentaries and counter-commentaries, where scholars engage with the work of their predecessors and contemporaries. They did not simply accept old texts as gospel, they questioned, analyzed, and added their own insights. This spirit of inquiry is evident in legal texts that debate the finer points of Islamic law and in scientific texts that correct the findings of earlier astronomers. Timbuktu was not a place of rote memorization, but a living, breathing intellectual center where knowledge was constantly being created, challenged, and renewed. The golden age of Timbuktu could not last forever. The city's decline began in 1591 with an invasion from Morocco. The Moroccan forces, armed with muskets, defeated the Songhai army and sacked the city. They targeted Timbuktu's intellectual heart, arresting and exiling many of its leading scholars, including the great Ahmed Baba, who was said to have a personal library of 1,600 books. This invasion marked the beginning of a long period of instability and decline. Yet, even as the city's fortunes faded, its people never forgot the value of their books. The tradition of preserving knowledge became a sacred duty, passed down through generations. As the centuries passed, the manuscripts faced new threats. The arrival of French colonialists in the late 19th century brought a different kind of danger. The French were eager to acquire the manuscripts for their own museums and libraries in Europe. Some were seized, but many families, deeply suspicious of the colonial authorities, went to great lengths to hide their collections. They buried them in chests under their homes, sealed them in walls, or smuggled them out to remote desert villages. The preservation of the manuscripts became an act of cultural resistance, a quiet refusal to surrender their history and identity to a foreign power. The most dramatic chapter in this story of survival unfolded much more recently. In 2012, extremist groups linked to Al-Qaeda seized control of northern Mali, including Timbuktu. Declaring the city's rich Islamic heritage to be idolatrous, they began a campaign of cultural destruction. They took sledgehammers to the ancient tombs of Sufi saints and publicly burned a number of manuscripts. The world watched in horror, fearing that Timbuktu's entire literary heritage was about to be turned to ash. It seemed as though centuries of history were on the verge of being wiped out in a matter of days. But the people of Timbuktu refused to let that happen. In an incredible act of bravery and ingenuity, a small group of librarians, archivists, and ordinary citizens organized a secret rescue operation. Led by men like Abdulkader Haidara, they worked in the dead of night, packing hundreds of thousands of manuscripts into metal footlockers. These chests were then smuggled out of the city by any means necessary, on donkey carts, in small riverboats, and in rickety old cars. They moved an estimated 350,000 manuscripts to safety in Bamako, the capital of Mali. It was a heroic effort, a modern-day story of cultural guardians risking everything to save their heritage from destruction. The heroic rescue of the manuscripts from Timbuktu was only the first step. While the documents were safe from the immediate threat of destruction, they now faced new dangers in the humid climate of Bamako, so different from the dry desert air that had preserved them for centuries. The fragile pages were vulnerable to mold, mildew, and insect damage. It became clear that a new, modern approach was needed to ensure their long-term survival. The solution was digitization. By creating high-resolution digital copies of each page, the knowledge contained within the manuscripts could be preserved forever, safe from any physical threat. This monumental task has brought together a global coalition of partners. International organizations like UNESCO, foreign governments, universities, and private foundations have provided funding and technical expertise to support Malian archivists and conservators. Teams of specialists are now painstakingly working to catalog, conserve, and digitize the rescued collections. Each manuscript must be handled with extreme care. Brittle pages are gently cleaned, tears are meticulously repaired, and then each page is photographed in a controlled environment. It is a slow and deliberate process, but it is essential for safeguarding this priceless heritage for future generations. The benefits of digitization go far beyond simple preservation. For the first time in history, these texts are becoming accessible to a global audience. Scholars from around the world can now study high-quality images of the manuscripts online without having to travel to Mali or handle the fragile originals. This has opened up a new era of research, allowing experts in different fields to collaborate and unlock the secrets held within these pages. It democratizes access to knowledge that was once hidden away in private family libraries, fulfilling the dream of making Timbuktu's wisdom a resource for all of humanity. This digital revolution is also empowering a new generation of Malian scholars. By training local archivists and researchers in the latest conservation and digital technologies, the project helps build local capacity and ensures that Malians remain the primary custodians of their own history. Digital copies are being shared with Malian universities and cultural institutions, allowing students and the public to reconnect with their rich intellectual past. In this way, the project is not just about preserving old documents, it is about revitalizing a culture of learning and inspiring pride in a history that was almost lost. The journey from dust to digital is securing Timbuktu's legacy for the 21st century and beyond. As scholars begin to study the digitized manuscripts in greater detail, they are making discoveries that are fundamentally changing our understanding of African and world history. These texts are not just confirming what we already knew, they are revealing a past that is far more complex, interconnected, and intellectually vibrant than previously imagined. They provide concrete evidence that challenges old, colonial-era assumptions about Africa's supposed isolation and lack of scientific or philosophical traditions. Each newly translated text adds another piece to a puzzle, and the picture that is emerging is astonishing. For example, manuscripts on astronomy have revealed that scholars in Timbuktu were not only aware of the works of Greek and Arab astronomers, but were also conducting their own independent research. They created detailed astronomical charts, known as ZIJ, that were used to determine the direction of Mecca for prayer, set the Islamic calendar, and even predict eclipses with remarkable accuracy. One manuscript, a commentary on the work of an earlier astronomer, includes diagrams that some scholars believe show a heliocentric model of the solar system, predating Copernicus. This suggests a level of scientific inquiry that was on par with, and in some cases ahead of, contemporary European science. In the field of medicine, the texts offer a window into a sophisticated system of healthcare. Treatises on ethics for physicians outline a code of conduct that emphasizes patient well-being and confidentiality, principles that are still central to medical practice today. Other documents contain detailed recipes for medicines made from local plants, providing valuable information for modern ethnobotanists. One fascinating text discusses the importance of mental health, describing conditions that sound very much like modern-day depression and anxiety, and suggesting treatments that involve music, storytelling, and community support. This holistic approach to health is a powerful reminder of the diverse forms of medical wisdom found across the globe. Perhaps most profoundly, the manuscripts on law and human rights force us to rethink the history of global justice. Long before the European Enlightenment, scholars in Timbuktu were debating concepts of universal rights, the ethics of war, and the importance of good governance. They wrote about the need for rulers to be accountable to their people, and the importance of protecting the rights of minorities. One famous ruling by the scholar Al-Aqib al-Samani from the early 17th century argues for the inherent humanity and rights of all people, regardless of their origin, a powerful statement against the burgeoning slave trade. These texts show that the conversation about human rights has deep roots in Africa. The story of the Timbuktu Manuscripts is more than just a fascinating chapter of African history. It is a vital part of our shared global heritage. In a world that is still grappling with the legacies of colonialism and racial prejudice, these texts serve as a powerful antidote to ignorance. They stand as irrefutable evidence against the racist myth that Africa was a continent without history or intellectual achievement. They restore a sense of pride and historical depth, not just for people of African descent but for everyone. They enrich our understanding of the human story by adding a chorus of brilliant voices that were silenced for far too long. The wisdom contained within these pages also holds surprising relevance for our contemporary world. In an age of political polarization and conflict, the manuscript's emphasis on tolerance, justice, and diplomatic resolution offers timeless lessons. The legal texts on trade and commerce, which detail sophisticated systems of credit and contract law, remind us that globalization is not a new phenomenon. The scientific works, with their blend of empirical observation and ethical reflection, challenge us to think about the relationship between science and society. Timbuktu's holistic approach to knowledge, which integrates art, science, and spirituality, offers a valuable perspective in a world that often separates them. The work of preserving and studying these texts is far from over. Of the hundreds of thousands of manuscripts that have been saved, only a small fraction have been translated and published. An immense treasure trove of knowledge is still waiting to be unlocked. As more of these documents are made available through digitization, new discoveries will undoubtedly continue to reshape our view of the past. This ongoing research is a collaborative global effort that invites us all to become part of the story. It is a chance to participate in the recovery of a lost golden age and to listen to the wisdom it has to offer. Ultimately, Timbuktu teaches us a powerful lesson about the importance of preserving cultural heritage everywhere. Every ancient text, every historical site, every oral tradition is a unique and irreplaceable part of the human journey. When we allow this heritage to be destroyed, whether through war, neglect, or intolerance, we all lose a piece of ourselves. The brave guardians of Timbuktu who risked their lives to save their books understood this profound truth. Their legacy is a call to action, to celebrate, protect, and learn from the rich tapestry of human knowledge in all its forms. The library in the sands has been opened, and its story is still being written. Let us continue to explore it. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What surprised you most about Timbuktu's legacy? Join the conversation in the comments and follow our channel for more journeys into Africa's remarkable history. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive and growing.